and a lot about what November 6th in Washington State means to me personally. And I'll start by flashing back just a little bit. I'm going to jump around a bit and tell some stories. That's what I do, try to do. And I'm going to start about a week ago. I was in Texarkana, Texas, of all places. I was with my family, and we were there for sort of a sad occasion, and so we all went to this place called the Dixie Diner. We all sat down, and this waitress came up, cute waitress, and she said, you know, what do you want? And I said, comfort food. I want some chicken fried steak, I want some gravy on it, I want some black-eyed peas, and a lot of those rolls with butter and honey on it. And she just started laughing. She said, oh, sweetie, I wish you lived here. There's this girl I'd love to introduce you to. Yeah, really. And I thought, boy, can't I just sit here and clog my arteries, or do I have to come out now in front of my 80-year-old uncle and this girl I've never met before? That's what we do, right? We're faced with that challenge daily because we're not always immediately identifiable. When I've had 2 or 3 cocktails after this speech, I will be immediately identifiable. But until that, we have to come out. We have to come out all the time. We come out every single day. But you know, we always have that one story we call our coming out story, don't we? That one time when we had the most at stake. We felt like we had the most to lose. And I don't tell mine often. In fact, almost never publicly. But I'll tell it to you tonight if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
All right, it was Christmas break from college in 1996. And I was going to fly home from LA, from UCLA, to where my family was at the time in Virginia. And a little background on my family is I grew up in a Mormon home. And I grew up in a Mormon home. Wow, I got cheers. That's never happened. I grew up in a Mormon home way out in Texas. And that meant, yeah, you too, Texas. That meant that I had to go to the Randolph Ward, and this is a group of Mormons who meet, and they meet every single Sunday, and on special Sundays, this is the 80s, they would do this thing that at 6 years old I thought was amazing science fiction. They would bring down a screen, and via satellite, they would beam in President Spencer W. Kimball, the president of the Mormon Church, and I saw this white-haired man staring down at me, and he said, next to the sin of murder comes the sin of sexual impurity, homosexuality. I was 6 years old, and I was already into older men. I had a crush on that 9-year-old down the street. So I knew he was talking about me, and I was down there with all those sinners and those murderers and the rapists, all 3 foot 2 inches of me at 6 years old. And to make matters worse, my good Mormon dad decided to run off, perhaps to find new wives, and left me with my mom to raise 3 boys alone. And a little about my mom, she had polio, so she's paralyzed. Braces and crutches to raise 3 small kids, never had a job, never drove a car. And the folks who volunteered to help her were the U.S. military. And they said, we will give you the skills. That's right, we can cheer for them. We will give you the skills to raise these 3 boys. And they did, but all of a sudden, my home was a Mormon military home out in Texas. Not the most accepting home, not the place to come out. So flash forward to 1996, and I'm on this plane, buckled up in the plane, ready to go home. And I'm going, gosh, what am I going to talk about at Christmas this year? Because a lot's happened since I was 6 years old. My mom remarried a Catholic Army soldier, and we moved to the Bay Area. And I discovered theater, and I discovered San Francisco. That's right. And I moved down to UCLA, and I started college down there, and I started to meet out gay and lesbian people, and guess what? They weren't evil. They didn't have horns. They didn't seem broken. They didn't even seem very depressed. And I came out.
Woo!
And I came out. And I even had a crush, this time on another older man. He was a grad student. He was 22. And I was thinking about him as the plane landed, and I hadn't figured out what I'm going to talk about with my mom, and my stepdad picks me up from the airport in Washington, D.C. to drive through the woods down to Virginia, where my family was now, and I see my mom at the door, and she greets me with a giant hug, and all I'm thinking is, boy, I wonder if she would hug me if she knew who I really was. And standing right next to her is my big brother. Now, he is the toughest guy in our family. You know, all he does is watch cars go around in circles on NASCAR and kill animals, and he has that Megadeth poster and that Metallica poster, and he makes so much endless fun of my New Kids on the Block poster when I was a kid. I covered it up with Paula Abdul, and that didn't work for him either. So we were like oil and water, me and my brother. And I just thought, boy, I'm growing apart from these people I love, and I don't know that they'll ever love me for me. So, you know, I just opened presents as fast as I could, and had Christmas dinner and mowed right through it, and got up to my bedroom as quick as I could, closed the door, and thought, boy, I did it. We didn't have to talk about anything. This is great. And then I heard this sound coming down the hallway, this click-clack sound. Click-clack, 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 click-clack. I've heard it my whole life. It's my mom coming on her braces and crutches. She comes in, she opens the door, and she sits down in the corner of the bed, and she just starts talking. She starts talking about the news and about politics, what's going on in the world. That's what we've always done. I just had less and less and less to contribute over the years. And she, as an Army woman now, she wants to talk about this thing that she just can't stand, this thing called don't ask, don't tell. But she couldn't stand it because it actually allowed some gay and lesbian people secretly to participate in the military. And she thought these people are sick and wrong and broken, they should have no access, they shouldn't be allowed here at all. And as she went on and on and on, I could feel my cheeks getting wet. And I could feel the tears coming out of my eyes, and I wanted them to go back in so badly. I did not want to come out. I was not ready to come out. And my mom looked down to me, and she saw my wet cheeks. And she's a mom, she knew. She knew right then and there. And I looked in her eyes, and I could see the disappointment. And I could see the devastation, that she felt that somehow she was responsible for breaking her child, and she didn't know how to fix me. And we didn't resolve it. We actually didn't resolve it at all. I went home, I flew home to Los Angeles, and I didn't talk about it much. All I said to my friends was I was sort of wary about my mom coming in a few months for my college graduation. They were like, what's the problem? We'll just make some pasta and some salad and have a little dinner. And I was like, all right. And so then a few months later, I hear that same click-clack sound, click-clack, click-clack, click-clack. Here she comes, up the hallway to my apartment. She comes in, my friends were all there, they'd made salad, they'd made pasta, and I'll admit to you right now, I completely copped out. I completely copped out. I didn't tell my friends that my mom was homophobic. I didn't tell her that she had any problem with me whatsoever. And I didn't tell my mom that most of my friends at this point were gay and lesbian. So she comes in, she sits down, they all start talking to her, serving her food, serving her pasta and salad, and I back into the kitchen. I'm growing very, very uncomfortable, because all of a sudden I realize, because I've said nothing, because I went out, they assume that she loves her gay son. And they all start swarming around her, because she's like a saint. This is pre-Ellen, pre-Will and Grace. They're like, my God, she accepted her gay son. What a wonderful woman. I'm going to tell her my story. And they started to share their stories of coming out. They started to share their stories of feeling less than where they're from. They started to share the stories of who they were dating and the sex they were having. I'm horrified. And slowly they're leaving, so I'm going to be left with this woman. And eventually it's just she and I, and she pats the seat next to her, and she says, come here. And I do, and I walk over to her, and she says, so I met your friends, and I like them. I said, okay, good, I like them too. And she said, well, I actually had a long talk with that 22-year-old grad student. Oh boy, okay. Like, no, I like him, but I gotta say, he damn sure better start treating you better, and when he takes you out to dinner next, he ought to pay.